Hey guys, today we're going to be going over the demo mix of my band's latest single release, Error. If you haven't heard it already, you can also even hear it in the background of me right now. Link is also in the description if you want to add it to your playlist. We're going to be going over the production of this demo before we even sent it out to get mixed and mastered. We're going to be going over the vocal layers, the production, guitar layers, all that good stuff. So if that's up your alley, just keep watching and we'll get right into it. So first, I will go over the synths. Unfortunately, I don't really have what exactly my other guitarist Adam did, because a lot of it is just printed. I'm pretty sure he used either stock plugins from Logic or maybe he has some other ones. Maybe he can clarify in the comments. But just the synths and all the layering and all that is pretty nice on its own, to be honest. He kills it. So yeah, that's pretty much the intro aside from the AI voice that we threw on there. But there's a lot of like really cool little sounds in here. Like a really nice droning little, almost like a siren, like a broken siren kind of sound, at least to me. We have an almost like angelic kind of sound to this as well. Almost sounds like you're watching a space documentary. I love that. I don't know what Adam did for this, but it sounds so sick. It almost sounds like you're playing one of those like really old retro games, I guess. That's just my interpretation of it. Has the sweeping filter on there, flanger, whatever you want to call it, giving it a bit more texture. I honestly didn't process any of the synths. They sounded perfectly fine to me out of the box. Over the breakdown, he did add extra synths, and I even added my own as well, which I would show. So we have this like synth chord playing here. Just going along with the bass and the guitar, just making it more beefy. And then one synth that I know came in after the fact was this one. I'm not entirely too sure what this one is either, unfortunately, because it was printed, but again, one of those really nice angelic sounding synth patches. Again, just texture and layers. I love that Adam does this because I'm also a sucker for that kind of stuff. And then the one synth I did add, the one thing I added pretty much to this whole production, it's just this little like pulsing synth. And so all together, and so yeah, I really liked the texture in this song in particular, just because again, I'm a sucker for it. But alongside that synth I added, I also felt like the breakdown, so I'll play it without it. So this was the original breakdown. And so like it sounded sick, but I couldn't help but feel like it was just missing something, and I didn't want to mess around with this synth patch. So I just put a bunch of reverb and delay onto just a nameless preset, and as you can see, I'm like blasting the mix half on the reverb. So I just wanted it to be super washed out, and it ended up sounding like this. And one cool thing about the final mix that I really like what the mix engineer Aaron Shaparian did, he basically matched this synth and he just made something that resembles this synth here and just made them sound as one, which I thought was super, super sick. And unfortunately I don't have it, but this is like the tremolo effect, I guess you can say, that he added to that pad, and it ended up being super sick. And so for that synth, all I did was just add a serum patch and just sound designed it. And I can kind of show you what I did as well. So this is how it sounded just by itself. And that was from the Modern Metal Solutions Andromeda Serum Pack, if you want to check that out. But aside from that, I have an EQ. I was just kind of going wild because I didn't want any of the low end, and so I just cut all of it out and boosted some high end. Turned it into that. And then I went ahead and just compressed the hell out of it. As you can see, I have the nuke option because I just wanted to squash it entirely. And then that made it more harsh, so I just put soothe. And while it didn't really make it any less harsh, I felt like it was needed. So that was how I built that synth. I wish I could say more for the others, but Adam's in his own world doing his best and killing it every time. Aside from that, I guess I can go on to guitars. I didn't really do anything different with guitars that I usually do. You can see I experimented quite a bit with different tones and different techniques I wanted to try. I ended up settling on the Nameless-X suite just because, I mean, this plugin has been killing it lately, especially with the sound that we're going for. I didn't even use a separate IR. I just used the Thal Goodman preset from Clayton King. I compressed the DI just because I like it to be more consistent, and that way when we're playing the higher notes, they're not too loud. I have some EQ on the DI. This looks insane, and it is, but I can show you what it sounds like without it. With it. Honestly, it was probably unnecessary to do this much, but I liked the final result, so that was basically what I was going for. Like I said, this is just the default Thal Goodman preset, I believe. I just maybe brought down the bass a little bit, or maybe just brought up the noise gate a little, and that was pretty much it. I didn't really mess around with that too much. Another, again, crazy EQ, but I'll play it without it. And with it. So basically, just to very simply explain my thought process behind that, was just cut out a lot of the harshness and just make it sound more even in the mix. Typical multi-band compressor on where the chugs happen, and you can see it only really happens when it's actually being chugged. I say that, but let's be honest, it's drop F, so it's always going to be activating somewhere. Freak Sniper, basically just a soothe-esque plugin. Basically, just to put it in simple terms, it finds the harsh frequencies that typically you don't want and it cuts them for you. And then soothe. I didn't really quite need soothe, but I just felt like it was something good to have, I suppose. So yeah, everything is pretty much the same as I usually do. We do have the guitar tapping here. And I believe that was just a Gojira heavy lead preset, just default. Maybe pulled up the mix on that a little bit, maybe pulled it down, I can't really quite remember. And then just EQ'd out some of the low end and boosted the high end because I wanted it to kind of poke through a little bit more. Everybody, at least on my channel, has been asking me, how do you mix vocals? And to put it simply, I kind of don't. I mean, most of the time I'm just kind of compressing them, and then I'll use Soothe to sidechain them to the actual instrumental mix. And for EQ, it's just really basic moves. I'll go over it right now, but just throwing it out there. Here you go. I know you've been waiting for it for a very long time. So the vocal chain, this looks insane, and it's literally just because I was a little lazy with the demo mix, and I didn't want to just like pull up another plugin. This was just because in the beginning of the song there was some gnarly whistles in these vocals. Like you can kind of hear on Invasion right there, so I just kind of took it out. And then I just kind of left it because it didn't really seem to affect the vocals that much. Aside from that, I was using the trial for Modern Metal Songwriters Gamma Vocal Suite plugin, and it was just the default setting, and all I did was pulled the threshold up so that way it kind of just slams it a bit harder. Most of the sound from my vocal mixes tends to come from this plugin here from JST. I really, really like the effects you can do with it, especially the echo, and especially that you can make it stereo, and especially that you can do lo-fi if you want. But I'll go ahead and solo the vocals here, and I'll just turn this off and then I'll turn it on, and you'll see how much of a huge difference it makes. And so yeah, I really like the echo on this. I tend to like really spacey vocals, like just my personal taste, I suppose. And this, just being able to pull this up just slightly and it sounds perfect, I love it. But aside from that, I mean, I didn't really do much. I put the gain reduction around 55, auto makeup gain, a little bit of de-essing, barely added any grit down here on the distortion on it. I didn't even touch the EQ. This is, again, just the default setting, and I just kind of shift double click this so it automatically puts the input where it wants it to be, and just threw this knob up, and I love it. This plugin is perfect. But aside from that, I also have fresh air. I didn't really mess too much with the mid, but the high air I put the 14 just for a bit of extra presence. And all together, and the funny thing about these gang vocals, this was like a super last minute addition, because these were never in here before. It was just straight up. And I remember Aaron Shaparian, the mix engineer for this song, he was just like, he told us about the idea that he had because he heard it in his head. And then I remember I had to rush home from work and just so I can be home alone just to get my takes in there. And it ended up turning out great, at least in the demo mix, because in the demo mix it's super raw. I can expose how I sound when I yell.
No! No! No!
Just NPC default dialogue. Yeah, like aside from that, just everything with the production, like the drums, the bass, that's my typical template. So nothing is really too different from what I usually show and teach on my channel. I know this was a very, very different video for me to post, but I thought it would be kind of just fun to go through, just to look back on. I mean, this is the first release with my band that I was a part of and that I've helped create, and so it means a lot to me. And this channel, while I do like to kind of give you guys what you like to see, I want to do stuff that I like, and this is something I love. So again, if you want to check out this song or my band, the end card is going to be somewhere here, somewhere soon, and you can even check it out in the link in the description. But until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye.